Welcome, everybody. I'm gonna have to be as quiet as I can right now because it's pretty late. It's like 11. It's 11:30 right now for me. But as you can already see, this is different than what we're used to. It's another Helldivers 2 video. Last time I was complaining about the Illuminate, and today I want to do something a bit different because, as I'm sure you're all aware, there's been a bit of an uproar in the community lately with the new update to the game, 6.2.2, as well as the new war bond that just dropped. So there's been a lot going on and a lot of just craziness happening. But I just kind of want to just throw my 2 cents in, just because this is kind of something I want to talk about. I love this game. It's a lot of fun for me. So I just felt like I wanted to put something out there. And I'm actually putting not necessarily gameplay, but just something here so you're not just staring at my face the whole time like last time. But I also have some notes open on my phone so that I can at least stay on track. It's not specific script word by word, but it at least is something to keep me on track so I don't talk in a circle like I did last time. But without further ado, let's get into it. So obviously, as I said, the community's kind of exploding right now. Not that it's a phenomenon that's happening fairly recently. It's been going on for a little bit. Personally, I've noticed it, but I have not been keeping track of it because I don't typically indulge in that. I just kind of like, if I'm enjoying myself, I'll play the game, I'll, go with whatever. I did read the patch notes because I wanted to prepare for this video at least and have a general knowledge of what they did so I could better understand. I did also watch a few videos talking about this, some of the changes they made, and so it's still not in-depth research, so I'm definitely not going to be walking into this like an expert. It's definitely another instance of sort of a common player's example, or perspective. Definitely, again, not... You might disagree with me, you might agree with me. Some of the things I say are probably not going to... They might not sit well with you, or you might be like, hell yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. But the one thing I want to talk about really quick before anything else, I want to preface this whole thing. This is not meant to be a critique. This is not a and by critique, it's not like a serious breakdown of all of the things that have happened. It is not I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm not telling the community you need to simmer down. I'm not telling Arrowhead they need to do better. These are simply going to be my base observations on some of this stuff, and as well as some things that I think will be pretty cool. We'll end it off with sort of a list, some things that I think me and other people I've seen have expressed they want to see it too. But let's first get all the other stuff out of the way. So obviously the new war bond, that's definitely a big bone of contention, particularly since one of the main features of this war bond is the mechs, the breakthrough and the lumberer. Personally, I don't use mechs all that often. I rarely use them, so I'm certainly not an authority to be speaking on these. Honestly, I might open this one up later. I'm at 305, but super credits. But I might open this up at some point, just to try them out. At least the lumber. The lumber looks cool, especially that big cannon. I love big cannons. But yeah. So, and for the thumbs up emote, I kind of want that too. But yeah, so people are not happy about these being in a war bond. I've seen it described as a slippery slope, and I can certainly understand that point. I can see how, putting something in a war bond that normally has been accessible through the regular progression system can be, I don't want to say disappointing. That's like the lowest level. Me personally, I don't care. Okay, I do not care, because I am a fun guy. I am a have fun guy. If I'm having fun, if I enjoy it, I'm not gonna care. Now, if I had to pay for it, like with actual money, then yeah, I'd be a little peeved that I wouldn't be able to access that, but I don't have to. I can grind super credits, and that's one thing I think is a very important thing. And I'm not going to talk about, oh, you can grind super credits. I'm sure everyone's heard that before. All right, that's nothing new. We all know we can grind super credits. We don't have to pay for them, which I think is a godsend. That's a very good thing, especially in this age of games where a lot of the more important currency, I should say, is you have to pay for it. So I do think that's still a good thing that they haven't done that. And I hope they continue to. And I did notice that they expanded the super credit store. Before, it was just these. It was 4 options. You could buy 150, 375, 1000, or 2100. Then they expanded it so that you could buy, they added 5,800 and then 13,000. So obviously there has been an emphasis placed on super credits, but again, you can grind them out. And honestly, the big reason I don't have a problem with them being in a war bond at all is because progression in this game is a grind. All the stuff we earned in the beginning from, through levels, unlocking it by getting to like level 6 or level 8 or level 14, that was a grind. We had to go through missions and grind out that XP with the medals. We have to grind out missions to get those medals. For ship upgrades, we have to, and weapon upgrades, we have to grind out for requisition slips and samples, which is one of the big reasons that I don't care that you have to grind for them, because it's all a grind. If you're not going to outright pay for the super credits, it's a grind. And even without paying for the super credits, you still have to grind for the medals and the XP and the samples and the requisition slips. So that's personally why I don't care, because I have to work for it anyways, whether I pay for something or not. And obviously I haven't opened it up yet, so this is not going to be a review of the war bond. Quick note there, this weapon actually, if you chop the barrel off, it actually looks like a DC-17 from Star Wars, the pistol, which is something I noticed. I don't know if they did take inspiration from that, but you can clearly see it's got that angular shape, up here. It's got the little knob in the back, but that's that's not what we're here for. But I just wanted to mention that because that was just kind of funny. So yeah, as far as the new war bond is concerned, I think there are cool elements in it, like, for a player like me who just does it for fun and gets these things because, oh, I see something I think is cool, I don't mind the progression, I don't mind the grind, and I don't mind that I'm wasting 50 medals just to get the 1 or 2 things that I like. I did that with Truth Enforcers. I got the Truth Enforcers War Bond specifically for the At Ease emote, the one where you stick your hands behind your back. This one. I wasted super credits and tons of medals just for that. Which, and again, I don't mind that, because I prioritize fun when I play games. I can get angry at things. I can look at something and say it's irritating, but for the most part, I try to, go through it with a mindset of fun. Next, story. I have heard this complaint a couple times about the story of the game, especially pertaining, and I will talk about this as a subset of this, but we'll come back to it, but like especially pertaining to the major orders. But there have been some complaints that the game's story is sort of not going anywhere right now. And to that I have to say, I think it's going to take a lot of time, all right, especially since this is a live service game, and I never played the first Helldivers game. I know, especially since I'm wearing the armor from the first game. This is the Mark V Tactical from the first game. It's called the DP00 in this game. I don't know why, but I have the Mark V Tactical. I just think it looks cool. I've been rocking this set since I started playing the game, but I don't know how it worked in the first game. Obviously, in the lore of the game, the first war took like 40 years or something like that. So obviously, they're not going to make a game that lasts 40 years. I don't know if they could. It would be a huge, insane feat if they could. But to that extent, with that in mind, I think it's not very fair to ask for, at least in my opinion, it's not very fair to ask for quick resolutions to the story. It's not fair to ask to be able to wipe out an entire faction in one afternoon. Not that I've seen that a whole lot. I think I've heard that like once, but I'm not a fan of the idea that a lot of the story stuff should come quickly and we should be moving through things. Because again, this is real time. Like, we're fighting a war in real time. So obviously not everything is going to happen at once. Not everything is going to happen within the span of a couple weeks. Not even in like a real world, even a global conflict on one planet. It wouldn't happen like that. And this is a galactic scale war on 3 fronts. So obviously there's going to be a lot of time and patience that's going to have to be put into that as far as the story is concerned, which again leads me into the MOs. And I think this really came about with Cyberstan. I think with Cyberstan, I really noticed this with Cyberstan, and that's really when I started hearing about it. Like, oh, the MOs, some of them are crafted so that we can't win. And it's like, well, why give us the choice at all? Why not say outright, oh, you're not going to win this? It's like, it breaks the immersion of the game. It's not fair to the players. And I honestly wholeheartedly disagree with that. Because, like I said before, like I expressed, it's a live service, game. Everything can't happen at once. We can't win every battle. But honestly, it feels more realistic to give us the illusion of victory only to have it taken away from us. Now, I'm not saying it should be taken away like in an unfair manner. I'm not saying they should like all of a sudden change the rules and be like, oh, now you can't win for this ridiculous reason. And honestly, I wouldn't notice if it was, to be honest, because I'll be too busy killing everything. So if you want to, take my word for it with a grain of salt. But I think it's perfect. I think that's a good way to do it, because that's kind of how it is in an actual fight. Like, you can try your hardest to win a battle. You can throw everything at it, and it can still go wrong. So I think that actually is fairly realistic to give us the idea that we can win, to have us push for it and push, and yet it doesn't work. I personally like that as a detail. Excuse me. And that's why I think with major orders and the argument that they shouldn't be, if we're not gonna make it, why bother? Honestly, that's just not a very good mindset in my opinion. Because, it sounds like I'm talking in a circle, but this is a different reason. It's kind of lazy to do that. And I think it would be even more a disservice to take that experience and that opportunity away from us, even if it's not meant to be, because then we're robbed of the experience of being able to participate in an action. And with Cyberstan, a great example, the 77th Mobile Infantry. I was not on for that because I was, that took place when I was working. I had a different job. I have a new job now. But I had a job then, and that took place while I was working that job, so I couldn't really participate in that event. But we were given a choice. Even though we were failing, we were, told to pull off the planet, we had a choice to save the 77th, and we chose it. And that's something small. Even in the midst of failure, we were given an opportunity to do something impactful. And so I think robbing us of that choice, there's always a choice to be made somewhere. And that's one of the beautiful parts about this game, is even if we're not supposed to win, we can still find smaller victories that make it somewhat worth it. And honestly, just a quick side note, to be honest, I think expecting to take Cyberstand this early in the game, I know it's been out for like 3 years, but still, it's kind of early to be able to take the capital of one of the major factions. Which I know sounds odd, especially since Super Earth was attacked a few months ago. I didn't even have the game at that point, but so it might sound odd for me to say that, especially since Super Earth was attacked fairly early in the game. But that aside, that's what I have to say about that. So personally, I like the idea of having an objective and not knowing, even knowing, like, oh, we're not going to do it, still, you know, doing what we can, because maybe it can change. Maybe something can change. And I really like that factor in there. And I actually skipped something. I actually skipped over one on my list. So going back up one, progression. This is something I have heard a lot, and that is progression, particularly pertaining to everyone who's higher level. I'm level 76. All right. I wouldn't say I'm super I'm like super absorbent in the grind to level up. I am definitely excited to see that new title pop up every 10 levels. Because it starts at every 5 levels you get a new title, but once you hit level 60, 50 or 60, it's every 10. But since I'm not 150, I don't get that fatigue, but I also personally don't think I would get that fatigue, because again, I live for the game. I do it for the love of the game, quite literally. But I do agree that higher level players should have something to do with all their stuff, even if they can't progress with their levels. And I will talk about this a bit later in my things I'd like to see portion. But I do agree with the sentiment that people who've been stuck at level 150 for months or even a year, I do think because some people do play the game for that progression, and I respect that, because, you know, you play a game for different reasons. Some do it just to escape, you know, some are hardcore players. Everyone's different, and that's one of the big reasons I don't tell people how to play the game, or I don't tell them their opinion is wrong unless it's like blatantly stupid, because people have different ways to play. And so I think those people that want that progression, I do think it's unfair to leave them hanging in the dust, and cater exclusively to a newer or somewhat new player base. Because I personally, I fit in that mid-tier section of mid-tier development. I am definitely in that mid-tier. I'm high, but I'm not that high. But I do agree that there should be some level of progression, whether it be new levels, and new titles for you guys, for all you high levels up there, or some kind of reward system. I don't know. I haven't put that much thought into it. I literally typed this list out like 5 minutes ago, like right before this video. But I do think you guys deserve that. And to be honest, I do think you will get it. I wholeheartedly believe that there will be increase in progression. I don't know when it will be. It might be next month with the new round of updates, or it might not be for another 3 months or like a year maybe, but hopefully not that long. But I do think it's coming, because again, there's a lot more to do in this game, and there's a lot more progression to be had. So I don't want you guys to lose hope. Never lose hope. Especially since this game is still so early in its cycle, and we're still at a point where we haven't exactly reached a point of no return. There's still time to rectify things. There's still time to give you guys the things that you want. So don't lose faith. You'll get progression. I believe it. I believe it. And next, back down the list, buffs and nerfs. I did read the list, and I also remember from when the Bastion was released. They always, every time we get new stuff, especially vehicles, they tend to tweak the enemies. And one thing I do want to know is, like, not all the tweaks are negative. And I did read, like, one of the big bones of contention, and one of the most cited examples I've seen is the Hive Guards. Their front armor was changed from medium to heavy. But if I recall correctly from the patch notes, they also in turn lowered their rear health from their rear penetration from light pen to unarmored, and it shows because I have one shot a Hive Guard with my trident, so there was a bit of give and take. And with the Devastators, their shields are now destructible, I read in the patch notes, so you can break their shields, so no more trying to carefully aim. You can pummel them now if you want to. So that's good. So there was a bit of give and take. I read them like hours ago. I think this afternoon I read them. But it does seem that they like to tweak the enemies whenever we get new stuff. And I do think that's a little... On one hand, I don't mind the increased difficulty, especially since lately I've been starting playing D10s. I've been playing D10 missions for the longest time, but now I've actually been doing it. And I've seen rapid progression. It took me like a week to get from level 60 to where I am right now. Or actually it took me like 2 weeks. But I do welcome the increased difficulty. But at the same time, it does seem dishonest to give us new toys and then buff the existing stuff we have, only to then have the enemies be stronger. And so it's kind of an instance where it just adds up to be equal anyways. So it's not like it feels like nothing's changed. Personally, I don't see it because I don't notice that kind of thing. I wouldn't notice it in game, and I wouldn't have noticed it if I read the patch notes, or if I hadn't read the patch notes. Except the Devastator shields, I might have noticed that, but I aim for their faces anyways, so it probably wouldn't have dawned on me. So yeah, I do kind of see the contention with, the recent patches and buffs and nerfs. So I do agree that that's kind of a problem. I would say it's more of a problem than it is. I would agree more than disagree. Weapon customization. This is something I've seen quite a bit too, and that is weapon customization. A bit with primaries, pertaining to just the minimal amount of customization they have, with some of the weapons, and more so, and I will get into this with my things I want to see section, but like, definitely more modular customization with swapping out barrels and whatnot, and which I will also cover. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. And actually, I will get into this. I'll probably touch base with this again. But this one I want to talk about probably more why they don't allow us to, or not now, but like right now, why we don't have the ability to customize our weapons to that extent with that level of modularity. And it's because of the war bonds. Because every new weapon you receive comes from a war bond. And so if you add that modularity, it becomes more difficult to come up with war bonds, and that's probably why they've held off on it. Or at the very least, worst case scenario is they'll never ever add that level of modularity, which would be disappointing. It's not the end of the world, but it would be disappointing if they never did that. But on the other hand, if they do, I can see why it would impact war bonds, because and again, war bonds are cool when done right. I've seen criticisms of war bonds. Personally, I don't care. Again, I do not care because I do it for fun. But it would become very difficult for them to craft meaningful war bonds if we add a whole bunch of customization to the game. And this also works in with armor modularity and customization. Is how do you work that in there, and how do you make it so that we can have that kind of modularity with the coexist with the war bonds that are meant to give us different items. And honestly, I kind of have a solution to that. I think it's a very rough idea, but I'll get into that again in the other section that I plan on doing. Secondary customization for secondary weapons. I'm sort of 50-50 on secondary customization. Primarily because secondaries, at least for me, I don't use them too often. The only time I say I use my secondary more than my primary is when I'm on the bot front, and I have other guns that I kind of use now because I've been kind of using the sweeper on the bot front more because I love pump action shotguns. They're just so cool. But I had the sickle. I'd partner the double-edged sickle with the Talon, and I actually use the Talon a bit more as sort of like a high precision weapon, especially against Devastators, and I'll use the double-edged sickle for like chaff enemies. But I do understand the appeal for weapons customization for secondaries, and I can get behind it. I actually do think it would be pretty cool if we could customize our secondaries. Some, I think, shouldn't. Like the Ultimatum, I don't really think this thing needs customization, just because of how absurd the weapon is. But again, it's very special cases. Like a lot of the sidearms, most of the sidearms, I think I'm fine with customization on them. So I'd totally be all for weapons customization for secondaries. And as far as the last thing on my list of sort of not necessarily negatives, but more debated points, and I think this one I put last is because it's the most important in my opinion: realism versus fun. I have seen time and time again the constant bickering over not necessarily bickering, the sort of contention over, grunt fantasy, and sort of that's been thrown around a lot, is grunt fantasy, because I believe that's a term Arrowhead uses themselves when in regards to how they think about this game. And I did listen to when they were coming up with this game, especially with a lot like Starship Troopers was a huge reference to it. I don't know what to say about that personally, because I don't, if they're going for grunt fantasy, I don't feel grunt fantasy, because in the lore, Helldivers are these super special shock troops that are basically treated like God in the lore of this game, in the world of this game. If grunt is what they're going for, they should have made us Siege soldiers. So I don't necessarily agree with the idea that this is a grunt fantasy. Bring it back to realism versus fun. I do think there should be a balance. There are a lot of ridiculous things you can do in this game, and I love that. That's one of the things that, and honestly, I think that's one of the things a lot of games are missing nowadays, and that's one of the key elements in in some of the older titles from like the early 2000s, 2010s, even the late 90s, with like just the amount of ridiculous nonsense you could do in those games, especially multiplayer. This game has a lot of that in it, and I love that sort of cartoony, ridiculous aspect of it, just the absurdity of this game, and I love that, and I hope it never loses it. Excuse me, dry throat again. I need to start bringing water or something to drink for these long talk sessions. But yeah, I do like the absurdity, but at the same time, I do agree that it needs to be grounded to some degree, so that way we're not throwing everything into just a blender, and just, doing random stuff that would never ever make sense or would never ever work. So I do think there has to be some set of rules and sort of physics to how this game and its world works and interacts, without necessarily telling us no. Some actions should be, you know, obviously some things should just not, and I don't have an example off the top of my head, but some things should absolutely be, we should be told no, you can't do that, but for the large part of it, I do think there should be that balance. Definitely leaning more into the absurdity, especially since just how absolutely ridiculous this world is. But yeah, that's essentially the absurdity of this game, is the heart and soul of it. Well, it's definitely a part of it. It's definitely a part of the heart and soul of the game. But it's just fun to do all these ridiculous things. Like, one of my favorite things to do is I'm just running across the battlefield, and all of a sudden I just see somebody on their stomach, like prone, just zooming across the map. It's so funny. It's hilarious. Or like when somebody lands on top of like a factory strider or something and just rides the factory strider. It reminds me of that short, or that video, what's his name? I don't remember the creator's name, but he makes a lot of cool Helldivers 2 content. The video I'm thinking of is from Lore Accurate General Brash, where he's sitting on top of a War Strider, I think it is, and he's blasting his dual pistols. That's Helldivers. That's what that game is to me, is just in this world of war and death and destruction, there is complete madness to an entertaining degree. It's kind of like it's like the opposite of all those grimdark, like Warhammer or like Trench Crusade or something like that, or like the Matrix, like, oh, the world is dark and gloomy, and, you know, we're on the brink of extinction, or there's all these horrible things happening. Here, there's sort of a subset of that here, but it's overshadowed by 3 Helldivers playing whack-a-mole with a tank and a hammer. I've never played Whack-a-Diver, and I probably never will, but it just looks so hilarious. So yeah, I do think there needs to be a steady balance between realism and fun that definitely caters more to the fun side of the game. But all in all, those are sort of the big bones of contention that I've seen. Those are my very, honestly, kind of like 1 cent, it's not even 2 cents, kind of a worthless opinion if you really think about it, because I haven't said much. I haven't said too many important things. But with that out of the way, let's quickly move on to the things I personally, and many of you probably would like to see. And first, starting with customization, and not just weapon customization. I'm talking armor customization, ship customization, vehicle customization. Obviously, we already have some base level customization. Like with armor, we can, you know, change our armor set, mix and match the helmets, capes. Weapons have, you know, attachments, we can throw on them, and our ship has upgrades that we can pay for with samples. I think we can do more, and I certainly hope that there will be more in the future as the game progresses and as things, you know, get bigger and bigger, and there's more players and whatnot, and they can actually do this stuff. I don't know what's going on in their studio. I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on, nor that I know anything about game development, game design, how much of something it takes to do something, how many people it takes to do something. So I definitely am not going to be the guy who does that, because I don't know that, and it would be dishonest of me to tell them, hey, it shouldn't take this long to do this, or you should be doing this with your time. Because at the end of the day, I'm just here to enjoy the product. But with customizations, weapons, I do love modularity, and like I said, it does kind of clash with the war bonds, and with this, I do think there's an opportunity where, as far as weapons are concerned, I think new weapons could be introduced in a war bond, or like exclusive weapons could be introduced in a war bond. Like, for example, the pacifier. You're not going to be modifying this with like liberator parts. or say like the adjudicator, you're not going to be mixing and matching that with the 1-2 over here. So I do think that some weapons absolutely can be, you know, sort of their own thing, but things like the liberate, like you have 3 different liberators, right? Actually 4. You have 4 liberators. You have 4 different liberators. A carbine, you got the standard, you got the penetrator, you got the concussive, and you can absolutely condense those into their own attachments. You could, you know, smack the concussive attachments. You could have the penetrator attachments and all that, and you could basically make these. Honestly, this ammo pouch right here could be its own attachment. It could be extra ammo for your gun, so it could increase the amount of ammo you carry. It could be like 1 extra magazine. There is definitely room to integrate both, you know, weapons can be released on their own, and then, you know, war bonds could also include weapon attachments, or something like that. So, or they could rework it entirely, and the superstore could also have weapon I think honestly the superstore, and it would have to have a huge rework, so that way it's all accessible in one place, as opposed to, you know, you have to, you know, go into the war bond section and, you know, scroll through your war bonds, click on a war bond, and instead you could just go to the superstore, find the section it's in, and I know it kind of sounds similar, but it's, I suppose, slightly less steps, but like I said, it's all in one place. Honestly, I think the superstore is the way to go with any future attachments and upgrades in regards to armor and weapons, and possibly even vehicles. And obviously not everything needs to cost super credits. And if it does, they need to, and I'll talk about this later, but they should add extra ways to earn super credits, so that way you're not spending an hour of your time, you know, trying to get to like 600 super credits or something to get one item. So I think there's definitely some give and take with the price of items in the superstore versus how much you can earn in a mission or something. So that's definitely, I'm all for weapon customization. I love the idea of modularity. Ship upgrades, upgrades are already their own thing. Upgrades are definitely separate. I think upgrades should be separate from customization as far as the ship is concerned. Like, you have your ship modules, you have the rec slips and samples you can use to make your ship bigger and, you know, get all the stuff on it. But like, as far as the, you know, the coat, you know, the paint for your ship, and what, like, and even ship customization probably isn't going to offer that much, especially since a lot of that customization comes from modularity. But I do think there should be some level of ship customization greater than what's already available, because if I'm marching into combat, I kind of want my ship to look as cool as I want it to. And actually, I do love the superstore design in this game, but to be honest, I kind of like the I kind of wish there was like a little bit of a top section that extended on the top a bit more, and that might be with future upgrades to the ship, like a sensor suite or something. But I think that would be cool to have some form of customization in that way. Vehicle customization, that's definitely, right now, all we have for vehicle customization is paint jobs. And there is a vehicle customization section, so I'm hoping that they actually do fairly soon come up with a greater vehicle customization section and expand this into something bigger. You know, it would be cool if they had like ways to, you know, not just upgrade the paint, but like, you know, put different tires on it, put different modulars on it, especially with the mechs. You know, exchange the arms a bit. And again, this does sort of tie into, I suppose, war bonds, or if they decide to go back to it, like MOs, or just the standard level up system with stratagems, with the stratagem system. It would obviously clash with that, and they would have to, there would be give and take there with that. But I would definitely hope they add some form of vehicle customization, and there could probably be like a vehicle bay, because I don't, Yeah, because look at that. Right there. There's a vehicle bay right there. And so what I'm hoping we can do is I'm hoping they'll, as the ship expands and there's more upgrades to the ship, they'll like either add like a section of stairs here, or like that platform, we could go down that platform and go down into this lower deck area and expand into those sides of the ship. I'm really hoping that that's what they do. That would be awesome, because there's so much unused space back here to explore, and honestly it would also be a good gateway to open up your ship and to have like more players on your ship. I don't know how that situation will work with like the hell pods, because the bridge is so small and it fits only 4 pods. Maybe it could be a system where like you could have more than 4 people on your ship, but if you're going to do like a mission, you can only do a mission with 4 people. But I'd love to see us be able to expand further into this section, because there's so many cool little things they could do with this area, and I'm hoping they do that. I really do hope they do that. And last but not least, armor customization. There's already base level of armor customization. You can obviously swap out helmets, capes, and your armor, but now some of the more in-depth customization I've heard of is like, you know, being able to swap out armor passives, and I agree with that. I do think that'd be cool to swap. I probably wouldn't do it just because I love Democracy Protects way too much. Because anytime I play an armor that doesn't have Democracy Protects on it, I just feel weird. I feel weaker. Especially since I think this particular armor has the lowest medium armor rating, I think. Because this is just 100 armor rating. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. Extra padding is its own armor passive. Okay. But I do like the idea of being able to swap out armor passives and being able to switch out attachments on your armor. But one thing I want more than anything is color customization. Ooh, I would love to be able to customize the color of my armor, especially since, you know, it would be very cool to be able to personalize your armor to such a further degree. I really like that idea. Because what I do personally is I throw the Super Earth colors on my armor, and I think I'd model it after one of the pre-order armors. It's not the I know what one of them is called. One of the pre-order armors, it looks like Sea Farmer. I think it's widely regarded as the Sea Farmer, but Where of the Brand, it's something of the brand. I don't remember what it is, but I'm talking about the recolored version of this. I'd slap those colors on this. I'd make the undersuit that kind of a blue color. The armor itself would be white. The armor trim, that yellow trim and detailing, I'd turn it gold. Slap gold on the visor. I'd probably make the helmet stripes blue. But I'd absolutely do that to my armor. I would love to be able to do that to my armor, and I really hope they do that in the near future too. I'd love it, because I think I don't remember, I think it was Thornton is his handle on YouTube, or is his channel name on YouTube. I've watched a few of his videos. Very good. He's a very neutral guy, so if you want a neutral stance on a lot of the stuff they release, I'd recommend go watching him. I watched some of his videos, and he does mention that there has been found in the files of the game like a more in-depth customization system for the armor, or at least for the coloring. I think it's just a few images though of like the same armor set in different colors. I didn't look too closely at it, so it might just be existing armors. I think there were a few, because I think I had the helmet for it. Like I saw like a version of this helmet with blue on it, like the yellow and the visor were blue. But I'd love to see color customization. Now moving on to other stuff. MO rewards, major order rewards. I'm actually kind of dissatisfied with the current system, because it's every major order, no matter what it is, it's always a flat rate of 50. It's always a flat rate of 50 war bond, or 50 medals. for completing an MO, which, and I think MOs are a very missed opportunity for rewards, because it's always 50 medals. It's never anything more. And I think the severity, like especially with story-driven MOs that are actually pertaining to like the larger plot of the story, those should absolutely have increased rewards. Like maybe like adding a new sample, maybe a new kind of sample that could only be won through MOs, or super credits obviously is an obvious answer. You know, give us like maybe like 50 medals and 300 super credits. I think that would be a really good use of the MO system, MO reward system. That would, I think, make a lot of people happy, just to have more ways to earn. And obviously, I guess since MOs don't happen all that often, they do take a while to complete. Obviously, the amounts would have to be adjusted appropriately. But I think that's a good, excellent use of the MO system. Something else I've heard very much, moving on to the next point, like a community hub, particularly with like the DSS. Now, I think I heard that. Now, don't exactly quote me on this, but I remember seeing somewhere, I don't remember where, it might have been Thornton's channel again, but I remember him mentioning that there was a possible plot hole with the Meridian Black Hole, that we were going to be throwing the DSS into it. I don't know if it's to close the Meridian Black Hole, or if it's just, you know, setting it on the other side to, you know, go blow stuff up, blow up the Illuminate homeworld. I don't know. But hopefully, I do, like, especially with the DSS, would love to see a community hub. And I think I really like that idea of having one place where a bunch of people can just come together and socialize. It doesn't even have to be for missions. I don't even care if they expand, you know, the amount of players you can have on a mission. I don't even care if they expand how many people you can take on a mission. Having that ability, and even I mentioned it before, like having the ability for players to, you know, visit your super destroyer if they wanted to, especially for like clans or like groups. Like, I know there are people who make their own units in the game. It would be awesome to have an in-game space that we could all do that to, just to mingle, like whether it be the DSS. And I think a good system would be like the DSS could be just a general place where people can mingle, and then from there you can like find groups and you can visit like maybe the flagship of their fleet, and that could be like a nice hub for, you know, for groups, and you could go there and you could register, and you could have like maybe like a booth or area set up for your group. Like, you don't have to attend it, but it could be like little advertisements you could make. I definitely think that that's something they could do, especially since the DSS as it is currently its potential is kind of wasted. Right now it's purely a narrative device, and it does add some mechanic to the game. Like, you has the bombardments and stuff that you can unleash on a planet, and it does help with like planet progression and whatnot and defense. But largely as a whole, other than that, it doesn't really do much. It's just kind of like a set piece in the story. And maybe if it is going to disappear soon, maybe that's why they're not doing anything with it. But I do really hope that if it sticks around, or even if we get another one in the future, if they're like building a second one, I think it would be really cool if they took that and made it a community space. I think that would be awesome. And that actually perfectly ties into space combat, and particularly boarding, because I think space, I think it would be a huge plus to the game, like definitely an extra bit to the game if we could board ships. Now, obviously, boarding individual ships, that's probably a huge undertaking, and I would imagine that would take a long time to develop a system like that could work with, you know, attacking a planet. So I think a good balance would be to have like the enemy has like a big space station, or like a flagship, like a massive flagship or something that we could attack, and we could plow onto that ship, or maybe there's like a certain number of ships we have to, you know, infiltrate and destroy in order to punch a hole in their defenses. But I do think space combat is an excellent way to add some you know, difficulty and just something new for us to do when we attack a planet. So that way we're not just diving straight down to the planet's surface. Maybe we actually have to break through the blockade before we can land our troops. Because, you know, looking at all of this, it's clear that we, like, from the get-go, we have space superiority, pretty much. I think the only time I've actually seen an actual space battle is over Cyberstan. So it would be really cool if we could actually partake in a real space battle. And it's also possible that that was a test, maybe, for, like, set pieces and backdrops for future space battles.
Your fellow Helldivers rage.
Listen, pal, I'm doing a video. But I think it would be really awesome to have that. Last but not least, gifting. This is something that ties into progression for higher tier players, because you have all these super samples and requisition subs that you can't do anything with. And let's face it, despite the fact that this game, assuming they don't screw something up royally and completely ruin it for everybody, I'm hoping they don't. I don't think they will. I'm giving them some credit here, and I don't think they're stupid enough to do that. Eventually there will be a ceiling. There will come a point where the game, you cannot progress anymore. It's definitely too early for that, which is why I don't think they're going to be leaving you guys hanging for too long. But eventually, as the game draws to a close, which it will, something like this is not going to last forever, sadly. Which sucks, but that's the way it is. But there's going to come a time when there's no more progress to be made, and so a good way to use those resources that we're not going to be able to use is to be able to give them to lower tier players. That way they can progress faster, or they can get like those war bonds and like these cool things that they want. So that way, if they're like me and they want one emote and a war bond, they don't have to grind all those medals on their own. They can be gifted medals by higher tier players, or samples to upgrade their ship, requisition slips for attachments for their weapons, all that sort of thing. And I think something like that would also, it's not just good for the higher tier players and the lower tier players, obviously for the point of progression and offloading things that you're never going to use, but it's also great for the community, because then people will be compelled to, like, you know, gift and may not necessarily socialize, but it would be a good way to, you know, somebody, like, if I play a game with a bunch of randoms and, you know, a level 148 is like, here, have some samples, it's like, oh, that's nuts, that guy's cool. It's a great way to, in my eyes at least, to you know, not hugely, but just a little bit, build the community a bit more. So that's pretty much everything. I actually was struggling trying to figure out everything, because I probably forgot one or two things. I think I got everything I wanted to talk about, but that's everything I had for that. As far as any final words, I think right now we're starting to see, with this game and this community, we're starting to see something that's been happening for years with other game studios and developers, and that is a clash between the player base and the developers. I don't think it's quite reached the point to where it is right now with other studios, but, and I haven't examined it enough to determine, you know, every bit of it, you know, where we're at and all that, but I definitely think that we're at not necessarily a crossroads, we're certainly approaching one. But I will say this, I've not lost hope in this game. In fact, it hasn't even gone down. And it may again be because I'm not somebody who's focused on the things that a lot of people have problems with. But considering how good this game is, I really think that it can only get better. Because this game has to be a success. If they want to be successful, they can't piss off the community. They really can't. And especially with, it's going to be hard to satisfy everyone. And I do think that that is something we do have to give them a little leeway on, is that they can't satisfy everyone. There are going to be players with different wants, different interests. You know, some players want that progression, others don't care, like me. Again, some don't care, they just want to play the game and have fun, and some don't even play it enough to care at all about any of this. They look at all this and they say, it's just a game, shut up. I do think that, and there's always going to be controversy. There's always going to be a decision made, because no studio's perfect. Every studio has done something wrong at some point or another. It may not have been super huge, but it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. I'm not worried, and I truly wholeheartedly believe that nobody else should be worried. And I know it's, hey, you're telling me what to do. You're telling me how I should enjoy my game and my time. I am admittedly dipping into that territory, but not because I want to tell you how to feel. I simply want to express and hopefully transfer some of that positivity, because I do think there's a lot of potential in this game. Again, this game, it's only been 3 years, and for a live service game like this, with how much it's already accomplished so far and how much more there is to come, I really think that we're in for something truly special. A game like this comes once in a lifetime, and I truly do not think that they are going to screw this up nearly as much as some people think they do. I don't think it's going to get worse. At least not exponentially worse. Sure, it might come down a few notches. It might again in a few years. Maybe things will go up and then they might go down a bit again. But that's just how things go sometimes. I'm not saying it should be like that all the time, but that is the nature of development. Essentially, that is the nature of development, is not everything's going to be perfect, not everything's going to work out, but the best we can do is move forward and just have fun, you know, play the game. If you like it, that's perfect. If you don't like it, that's okay too. And just to again solidify just how highly I think of this game, this is the only game that's ever given me FOMO. This is, and not just game, but anything. Actually, there's two things. Only two games have, or not games, but only two things have ever made me go, I would hate to miss out on that. That's this game and the Iron Lung movie. Those are the only two things that have ever made me want it. I hope some of you have found something good in this video, something to hold on to, something to look at and say, yes. If you want to quit the game, if you're not happy with how things are going, that's okay. You do you. There's always going to be something for you to enjoy, whether it's here or somewhere else. But I truly hope that people can see the good that can come from this. And hopefully there are some people like me who do think that things will get better, and they'll get much better, and we're going to see this game reach heights that we never thought were possible. So keep your chin up, folks. It's only the beginning.